Alright, hi there everyone, my name is DemonicRobots, and this is Raw Danger. Raw Danger is a old PS2 game that was made in 2006 by a company called IREM and then eventually localized by AgeTech. It is a disaster survival game, so we are going to be trying to survive a city that has undergone a massive earthquake that eventually begins to flood. Joined by me is the wonderful Suzuka, who is going to be my co-commentator, and we're going to jump right into it. So, we're going to... So we're going to be playing as a variety of characters. We're actually going to be playing as 6 different people, and we're going to be getting the fastest endings for each of them. Some of these are going to take a little bit longer, like Joshua Harwell here. He's going to be a little bit longer than most of the others, and time is going to start in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we're going to be playing as Joshua Harwell, and Suzuka, I'll let you explain a little bit of the story and what we're going to be doing here.
So basically throughout this run, we're going to be controlling 6 different characters, each with different motivations. Just to start out with, we're starting with Joshua, who is basically just working like a seasonal job, the GeoCity grand opening as a waitstaff. And, you know, everything's going all right for him. He kind of sees a new coworker that he kind of crushes on a little bit, but everything kind of goes topsy-turvy in a little bit.
Yeah, so a big thing that you're going to notice about this game is every character is very, very blonde. Almost every single character in this game is completely blonde, and it's not like my kind. It's like full on. Whoever is the main hairstylist in this city, he must be getting some great work. But every single character is blonde. The reason for that is the localization team was trying to make these characters look American, because this is a Japanese game. In fact, the title of it is Zetai Zetoshi Sumi 2, I believe, which is like, I think it's the Frozen City something. It's a very complicated name. They wanted to make it turn from Japan setting to an American setting, so they went with New York City, and to make everybody American, they made them all blonde. Why? Because Americans are blonde. But, yeah, so there is a bit of a wonky translation and localization issues that are going to come up that can actually make the US version one of the fastest, which is kind of rare for a lot of these games. You think the ones with the Japanese text would be faster because mashing faster, but yeah, this is actually going to be the fastest version for a couple of reasons, but mostly due to the fact that this game runs on a different frame rate than the Japanese version. This is running at a crisp, clean 20 FPS, and boy, does it do it surprisingly well. So right now, we're going to be bringing over some food supplies. Basically, this is a banquet for the mayor showing, hey, look how good of a job we did. And, things are going to be going bad here in just a few minutes, but we're going to learn a little bit more about Stephanie, kind of chat with her a bit, and let me explain something, is that this game has a lot of different endings to it, and your character's choices are going to affect both the endings and other characters' playthroughs later on. So one of these that you can do is that you can actually kind of romance Stephanie, and there's a variety of ways that you can do so, but every time you do one of her good ones, it ends up giving her like a point, so to speak. We don't really worry about it too much, but it does lead to some hilarious things later on. But anyway, this is Mayor Goldstein. We don't really see him too much right now, but we will be seeing him later on. This game has a very much a political conspiracy plot line that goes on in the background, but because we get kind of the worst endings for most of the characters, we pretty much skip it entirely. So right now, we have to go get Mayor Goldstein's sparkling water because he is a very busy man, and it is very crucial that we get his sparkling water. And not only do we get his sparkling water, we have to make sure that we don't spill it. So we talked to the chef right here, who knows of where the sparkling water is, and we're gonna go get it, and we're gonna be very, very careful making our way back to Mayor Goldstein and make sure we don't spill any of his water. And Josh has spilled it absolutely everywhere, so he's not the best waiter, but let me tell you, Joshua is actually a superhuman being in disguise. This man is, I don't even know how to explain it, but think of him as having the strength of maybe Spider-Man, one of those kind of heroes. But anyway, we're going to return to Mayor Goldstein, we're going to give him his water, and now we are beginning to undergo a flooding. So Joshua is going to have to help evacuate a couple of the guests and try and figure out exactly what's going on. This is where things begin to turn bad for the city of GeoCity, which is actually kind of like a underground area. Think of it like Vatican City in Rome. It's not exactly its own city, but it kind of is. So right now this is called shout tanking. You can shout in the game to get the attention of different characters and people. We're doing this right now, and it's so we don't have to actually run all the way up to talk to them. Later on, it becomes a lot more noticeable, and we'll actually be doing a couple of skips with it, where we're going to be shouting in specific ways in order to manipulate a couple of characters later on. But anyway, we're going to come into here, and Joshua, he just doesn't know how to operate his sink, so when he goes to wash his hands, everything is going to fall apart. So, I don't want to say this is Joshua's fault, but the flooding might have been caused by him trying to be clean. Alright. So, Suzuka, do you want to explain a little bit about how the health bar works and how the health system works in this game?
Yeah, basically your clothes, both your pants and your shirt can get wet over time, and the more wet they get, the more heat you lose. And basically throughout the run, we'll want to keep it at above half heat, because once we get below half heat and even lower, we start to run slower and slower. And of course, that's not good for this.
Right.
Actually, an interesting thing about, you mentioned the US version was faster, and one of the big reasons for this is you actually get wet and lose heat 1.5 times slower, because it's 20 FPS instead of 30 FPS.
Yeah. Alright, here's some raw danger, fellas. The first attack, we're gonna be trying to outrun this flooded thing, and can we make it? Yes, we can. Look at that slow motion. Now, the PS2 era, you couldn't really do slow motion, so they put it down to 10 frames, but Joshua just barely, narrowly avoids drowning to death, and we're going to see that as a very common theme in this game later on. Some of the big ones we're actually not going to be doing because they're further into the characters' campaigns. We get the faster endings, but let's just say these characters can move and move quickly, so we're going to narrowly escape there, and now we're going to be meeting back up with Stephanie. Stephanie, she is a young woman who has some parental issues, and that's going to become more apparent later on as you learn more about her story. We're not going to because that's slow. So what we're going to do is we're going to shout this locker, and we're going to feel something in there, and it turns out Stephanie trapped herself in there. I don't know how that happened, but she's okay. We got her now with us, and now she's going to be our companion. Thankfully, she's not too bad of a companion. She can be a little annoying every once in a while, but overall, she's pretty cool. But basically, the main thing going on right here is that she is trying to kind of live a normal life. However, her family is very, very rich. So rich, in fact, that we're going to learn a little bit more about them. But the underlying plot here is that Stephanie has a stepmother and her father, and they don't get along at all. So she's trying to, like, get out on her own, be an independent woman, hence why she is working as a waiter or a waitress. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect them on the phones together and basically say, like, hey, you know, we're your dad and we're gonna come save you with a helicopter. Where are you? And then before she can say that, she drops the phone, because unfortunately, you know, back in the days, just phones just would slip out of hand just completely randomly. Also, you'll be seeing me skip through a lot of dialogue. Most of the time, we can just choose the first option. The game gives you a bunch of different choices about what you can say and what you can do, and depending on what you say and do will affect your character's likeness, kind of. So, you know, depending on if you blame her for something, or if you say, no, it's okay, no big deal, I'll protect you, that kind of boosts up your points with Stephanie. Now, it doesn't really matter too much in the speed run, but on your casual playthrough, it's quite important and integral to the story that your decisions matter. So right now, we're returning back to the banquet hall. As you can see, not only has it flooded completely, but it's also collapsed. You can say that the structural integrity of this place is absolutely terrible, and you think that it might be an overlap in something, but like, you know, maybe the developers just didn't think about it, but this is actually part of the story and the political conspiracy that we are going to completely ignore the entire run. But this area is kind of telling you about the environmental hazards. You don't really fight anybody in this game. Instead, you're going to be fighting Mother Nature when you're trying to escape. And we're just going to come over here. Hopefully nothing bad happens. And oh god, don't worry though, Joshua, even with rushing water in his face, he's going to be able to climb up on that edge no problem. Because again, he's a superhuman being, and this is only about 5% of his power. But anyway, we're going to run over here. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this couch to not get knocked down by that wave, and we're going to be very careful. Sometimes this can be a little wonky, but we made it. We're going to come over here. We're going to grab this couch, wait for that wave, otherwise it'll knock us over. And then we're going to be making our way onto here, onto the railing, and we are home free. So right now we're trying to evacuate and meet up with a couple of other survivors. Do you want to kind of give a little explanation about what we're doing here?
Yeah, so basically Stephanie got left behind because she was actually planning to leave work early after hearing some bad news about her stepmothers. And we went to go find her, and now we're left behind and we're playing catch up basically.
Right, so we're going to need to catch up to all of these guys, and as you can see, this is kind of an underground city, so Joshua, you know, when the normal thing happens, when you see a bunch of flying glass shards coming down on you, you're going to do the normal thing and just look straight up at it, but somehow he is okay and doesn't get glass shards in his eye, which I don't know how he avoids, but they're safe and sound, and basically what we're going to be trying to do is we're trying to get back with the main group of survivors who are going to be on the next floor above us, and we need to do a couple of things to do so. A lot of this game has cut content, and a few things made it into the game in this area that are just never present ever again. They try and teach this like a tutorial area to get you ready for the rest of the game, and then the things that they teach you just don't show up anymore. I don't know why, but one of the main things we're going to learn about, and we kind of learned about previously but that we skipped, is there are kind of things called bonfires. It's like Dark Souls, where what happens is we get to a bonfire and it will heat us up and dry our clothing. That is very important in some areas, however it is pretty slow, so we have two options of getting our clothes dry and heating back up. Or technically three. We can either use a heating pad, which is like a health item, we can go to one of the bonfires I just mentioned, or we can do what's called a death warp, where what we do is we send our character creating off the edge of something, and then when they respawn, they are going to respawn with all of their HP, and they're going to be completely dry. This is very important in order to make sure that we do not lose things later on in terms of speed. Also, I'm going to grab this item if it will allow me to do so. Sometimes the item can be a little wonky. But anyway, we're going to grab this heating pad right here, and then we're also going to grab a megaphone as well. This megaphone is very, very important for one single section and then nowhere else for the rest of the game. And that is a relatively common theme with this game. You find items that look like they will have multiple uses, maybe unlock a cool area later on, but no, you just use its only spot. Anyway, we're going to come over here. We are going to trick out Joshua with a brand new fashion item, the emergency pack. And then we are also going to pull out the bullhorn. And this is going to attract the attention of the people across from us who are going to move a shelving unit in order to allow us to crawl through. These characters are relatively important to Joshua's story. Two notable figures are going to include a waiter, who I can't remember his name, but he's kind of like the head honcho and is kind of the one who's in charge of all the other waiters. And then there's the chef, who has probably the worst Italian accent I've seen in any game I've ever played. It is pretty bad. I'll try and show a couple of dialogue lines later on, but what we're going to do is we're going to grab a kerosene tank, and that's going to allow us to fill up this heater, I guess, a generator. I'm not too sure what it is, but this is what I was talking about, content where it seems like this would be a thing that happens throughout the entire game, getting kerosene tanks to fuel up checkpoints. It doesn't happen ever again.
An actually interesting thing is that they had this as a mechanic in one of the earlier demos, but they just never use it.
Yeah, for some reason, just a lot of stuff is just completely removed from the game, and it actually works in our favor quite a bit because we're going to be kind of accessing that unused content. That's right, you're going to be seeing some things that I guarantee you have not seen before in any casual playthrough of this game. But right now we have to escape. The water is slowly rising up and we need to find a way to get out of here. So Joshua, being the superhuman he is, he's just going to tank this water flow. And this would be probably a good time to explain what the regional difference are between the American version and the Japanese version, if you want to explain the FPS stuff and things like that.
So, as I mentioned before, a big difference is the Japanese version was in 30 FPS. This version is in 20 FPS. The big difference is heat and water retention, but you actually move along handrails twice as fast because they overcorrect for it. And this actually saves a lot of time during the end of the run, which you'll see. But there's actually a few bugs that we might have to point out later as well.
Yeah. This game is very, very buggy. It actually runs surprisingly well. I mean, if you look at a lot of these water physics, this is like a really good game for the year it came out. And if you compare it to the prequel Disaster Reports, this is just miles better. But anyway, we're going to find that rope ladder, and then we're going to come over here and attach it to this pillar thing. I'm not too sure what it is. This is going to allow us to get all the other survivors up here, or not exactly. We try and save as many people as we can, but unfortunately some people can't make it to the rope ladder in time, and now it is just going to be this little group of survivors. Thankfully though, that construction worker, he's going to go grab the key for the elevator lift, but unfortunately the head waiter, who was our buddy, our pal, the person who we saw for maybe 5 seconds total during the speedrun, has not made it. So Stephanie is visibly upset about that, and this is another opportunity where you can get points to kind of boost your relationship meter, or you can just leave her behind. It's faster to match through and take her along with us, so that's what we're going to be doing. But here is one of my favorite parts of the game, and proof, living proof, that I was not lying about Joshua being a superhuman, and that is the fact that we're going to come right here, going to get everybody near the elevator, but it looks like our construction friend, he needs a hand. So instead of, like slowly carrying him over our shoulder to help him over to the elevator, instead we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So Joshua is going to go run over there. Now keep in mind, this guy is probably a 22-year-old waiter. He's not super strong, but actually, we are going to pick him up over our shoulders, no problem, supporting all the way, rushing through this water like it's absolutely nothing, and making the greatest vertical or horizontal leap you've ever seen over a 6-foot gap to a wobbling elevator. And let me tell you, I could not do that, and I don't think many people other than Joshua here would be able to do so. So we are going to jump onto the elevator and just narrowly escape GeoCity to turn into the real city, Del Rey, which unfortunately was next to a dam, and I guess the dam begins to shatter, and that is what's causing all of this flooding. But we are going to get out of here right now. A cutscene is going to be coming up that's a little bit longer than most of them. It's also another one of those points where the region differences become apparent, because it's going to have absolutely no dialogue. That is not a thing on the Japanese version, and it has Japanese dialogue, and so I think you were the one that found it, but doesn't this area technically have unused dialogue that's supposed to be attached to the scene?
Not to the scene in particular. There are some unused scripts though.
Yeah, this game is very, very much cobbled together, but we're going to be making our way up here, and basically the storyline is going to go is basically this news reporter, instead of, talking about safe zones or any important information during a natural disaster, is going to make sure to point out a 5'6" felon who is a female wearing a pink jacket and is handcuffed. She is a very, very dangerous person. She's heavily armed, she's a wanted fugitive, and that takes priority over everything that is going on in this city. Along with that, it's going to point out 3 different people who are injured. Claire Wyatt, Willie Nelson, and Jim Beam. But overall, there's not going to be a whole lot going over here. Basically, one of those is Stephanie's stepmother, and we're going to say that we're going to go to a mission care center to go figure out if she's okay or not. But in the meantime, we have time for maybe 1 or 2 quick donations.
Cool, thank you very much. We have a $25 donation from Ipsin with no comment, but thank you very much for your donation. I'd like to remind everybody that we at ESA Together are doing a week-long online marathon that will feature speedrunners and score attackers from all around the world. By donating to ESA Together, you'll be supporting the future of ESA. All donations will go directly towards supporting the running of future events for you to enjoy, so thank you all very much for your donations.
Alright, so here we're learning more about another character, Amber Brazil, that we'll be seeing later on. We're actually going to use a bonfire right here, because we literally spawn right in front of it, and it's faster than trying to do any kind of death warp. So we're going to be doing that after this cutscene. We're going to talk to Stephanie, who's feeling a little bit of guilt, but we don't necessarily know why just yet. In the meantime, though, we're going to say we need to go to the Mission Care Center, and we're going to try and get further up north because the city is gradually beginning to sink and come underwater. So we are going to warm up right here. Joshua is going to feel nice and warm, and then we're going to move on. Now we're going to come up to the greatest line and the worst detective in the history of any video game you've ever seen. Look at that. That lady looks familiar. Maybe it's the fugitive. Oh, wait. Hi there, we have Detective Tab. Now, we can't skip this, otherwise I would, but he has the greatest line ever, and it's one of my favorite. It's so bad it's good. But right now, we are going to rat this lady out because we need to later on. And that gives us this lovely little scene.
Hey, you. Don't you even think about running.
I don't know why, but that voice line is just so delivered, just in the perfect way to be cheesy and bad. But he is going to find Amber, and that is very important because I mentioned that character decisions are actually a huge factor in the speedrun, and what I'm doing as Joshua is a setup for later on. Also, what I'm doing as Joshua is I'm trying to lead Stephanie away until she starts walking, and then I'm going to vault over this. So normally Stephanie will follow us through this area, and that is very slow because she starts walking right there. So what we do is we wait for her to walk, that'll put her on a set path, and that means that when we grab the item that we need to continue on, she's going to be in the position that we need her. And then also we got to watch out because this water is electrified. It will damage us, but not in the way that most games would. Do you want to explain what happens when you take fall damage in this game or any kind of real damage like that?
Yeah, so basically, fall damage and getting shocked by the water is pretty inconsequential. It, stuns you for a little bit, but it damages your clothes as well. If you're wearing any sort of like overcoat or anything like that, it can actually destroy it. But currently, as we are right now, it's kind of inconsequential to us, except losing.
Yeah, so it doesn't actually damage us because we don't have a health bar. It also just basically damages our clothing. Also, that's going to fall right over. If you ever see me crouch like this, what I'm doing is I'm trying to avoid what's called like a little quake, where our character will begin to wobble around and almost topple over, and then if we aren't holding to something like the ground or an object, they will fall over, and that's very, very slow and damages their clothing. So we're going to talk to Stephanie right now. This is kind of a weird scene. I'm not sure if this is maybe more of a cultural thing, but this also happened in Disaster Report. She's going to ask us to stand on her back, and she is going to be the most apologetic person about it ever. She feels terrible about having to stand on her back, and this happened in the first game as well, so I'm not sure if it's like very, very disrespectful even in an emergency to stand on somebody's back, but it's just kind of always a weird thing that's really, really stuck out, and that's like pretty much this entire game. But we're going to get out of that area now that we have climbed up. We're going to say hi to the policeman. Hi, policeman. And we're going to continue over here. Now, normally this wave would knock us down, but if we are stepping onto the car at the same time, then what it does is it can't play the two animations at once, so we avoid that. And we're also going to avoid that trash, which is the only RNG part of the entire game. There is not a lot of things that are to random chance or encounter, but for some reason those trash piles are. I don't know why. It doesn't do anything other than waste maybe a second at most. But yeah, that's a thing that can happen. And then would you like to give us a little story summary here for what we're going to be doing next in this area?
So basically, we're going to be encountering a helicopter sent by Stephanie's dad, and they're basically going to be rescuing the injured people. So we're going to ignore that helicopter and try and take a train from the station, which I'm sure will go very smoothly.
Oh yeah, I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen whatsoever. Yeah, so, and kind of a funny thing here is we can either side with Stephanie, which is what we're going to do because it's faster, or you get the option to just be like, no, take me instead. I am more important. And you kind of learn that you could be a big, big jerk in this game, or you could be the sweetest person ever. And that's kind of the fun thing about it, is like you can just be completely two different characters and get, hilarious dialogue that you just never would encounter otherwise. But we're going to come in here, and now, even though everything's collapsing, I'm sure the train station's perfectly okay, and the subway system's totally fine, and nope, it is not fine at all. It is just a little bit out of commission, but I'm sure they'll get that up and running in 1 to 2 years. So I think we have plenty of time to wait for it. But yeah, so right now we're going to come into a cutscene. Stephanie's going to run forward in front of us, and she is going to fall because the floor is going to collapse. And we're going to need to get to her. Now, originally, I believe this area was supposed to be a lot more like open, and you're supposed to be talking to people and things like that. However, we're not going to be really doing that. There is some unused content where there are people on the other side of this area, including Mayor Goldstein himself, but we're not going to be doing that. We got to go save Stephanie because she is knocked out, and there's going to be two things that we need to do that. One is the lighter, and the other is the speed handle. We're going to grab that. We're going to grab this. One thing to note is that if I crouched before I picked up an item, it would be a lot quicker. However, we're not going to do that just because it can be a little bit wonky. It saves like a quarter of a second each time you do it, so it's not that big of a deal. But that is another thing that we can do instead of just clicking on the item as we're standing. Anyway, we're going to come right over here. We are going to use the speed handle. That is going to open this gate, which creates a little bit of a shortcut so we can come back down over here. So now we're going to head into this train station, and Joshua's vision is not very good in the dark. He doesn't have his glasses, so he's going to really struggle to see this thing right in front of him. However, if we give him a light source, such as a lighter, boom, he can see everything perfectly, and now he can see that thing that was right in front of him, which he would not have been able to do so otherwise. So we're going to use the speed handle to open this thing up, and then we're going to unequip our lighter. We need to unequip our lighter because if we walk through that area, we will set something on fire, and that'll make another character's area much more difficult for us to navigate. So we're going to turn that off, and then we're going to come up into the subway system. Now, do you want to explain what the water bug is for us?
So the water bug is actually the biggest, first run killer for raw danger. In the 20 FPS mode, we're going to have a sequence where the water starts rising at a quick pace, and the game checks to see if it's at a very precise area. And it can actually go from before that area to after that area in 2 frames due to the small frame rate. So we'll actually see that once we exit the station, if the water starts rising, we can't escape and we'll basically have to eat a death. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Right, if it does happen, it doesn't cost us that much time because this game is very generous with its continues. It would just come to this scene right here. Also, fun fact, you get a couple of options there to wake up, how you want to wake up Stephanie basically, and one of them is you get to sniff her. If you sniff her, she wakes up and goes, "What were you doing?" And if Joshua says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you were just so beautiful that I couldn't help it," you actually get a relationship point that goes towards her becoming your boyfriend by the end of this story. So just thought I would point that out. But okay, so the water bug is going to be coming up right here. You'll see the water rise so quickly that I will have literally no possibility of escaping it. So we'll see if we get it. And it looks like we did not get it. So that is very good RNG. So we are going to continue to carry her with one hand, by the way, which is quite impressive through all this. You can see it's like kind of glitching in. If we got the water bug, that would have immediately filled up and killed us instantly. But because we were lucky enough to not end up in that area, we are going to escape with the chef, who, that's his name. His name is Chef. There is no other option or anything else. He's just Chef. And now we are going to be heading towards an evacuation point. And hopefully we'll be able to get Joshua to safety, and hopefully nothing goes wrong again. But Suzuka, would you like to give a kind of explain to us what's going on here in the story?
So this whole level is kind of Stephanie grappling with whether or not she should go find her mother again. And we get a little bit more backstory where we find out that her birth mother was actually, she actually died when she was young. She was introduced to her new stepmother. And there's actually one of my favorite lines in the game where her father goes like, "Hello, Stephanie. Say hello to your new mother." Kind of cracks me up.
Yeah, and just another thing that also really bugs me is every character we see here is blonde, very, very blonde. However, we get a couple of flashback photos, and for some reason, the models in the flashback photos have brunette hair, even if the flashback happened when they were blonde. So I'm not really sure what happened there. The timeline for this game in reality is very, very finicky and is basically on a very loose string to where it could fall apart at any moment. But we're gonna comfort Stephanie. We feel bad for her, and we know that she really, really wants to help her new mother and figure out and try to like reconcile. So that was the little flashback scene. You see she had brown hair along with other characters. There's much more noticeable examples later on with another character named Paige. But we are going to eventually make our way over to the checkpoint. And while we're going through this area, we have time for 1 or 2 quick donations.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to remind everybody that we are being sponsored this event by HyperX. There are a couple of prizes up. There's some wireless headsets, the Cloud Flight S and the Cloud X Flight, an RGB mousepad, a wireless mouse, and a wireless PS4 headset. Those all have minimum bids associated with them, and they're all cumulative over the course of the marathon.
Fantastic. So this area has probably the shortest amount of actual real playing. A lot of this is basically discussing with Stephanie whether or not we're going to go with her to the Mission Care Center. And Joshua's going to be kind of a jerk here. We are going to tell her that we're going to be going with her and that we're going to be doing a bunch of things with her as well. However, that's not going to be the case. Instead, we are going to pretty much, I don't want to say leave her behind because that just sounds so mean, but we're going to continue to talk with her, and then, hey look, the helicopter is here. That means Joshua's story is over because we're going to get saved, right? Wait for it, and oh no. Who would have thought that in a disaster game, a helicopter would have crashed? And we get a little bit more of Chef's wonderful dialogue. He's actually a pretty nice character, and you can kind of do some pretty mean things to him that we're not going to do. But we're going to hear the head chef. Unfortunately, something bad happened, so we're going to continue on our merry way to go see what's going on at the crash site and maybe offer our assistance. Because again, Joshua is a superhuman, and he's going to prove that fact once again as we're going to be coming up here. But we're going to come to the edge of this, and we're going to see that the chef is hanging down. Now, what could we do? We could reach up and pull him up, smile at him, or take his hat. Either one leads to the exact same thing. We're going to collapse probably about 20 or 30 feet into, you know, concrete rubble. But don't worry, because Joshua, again, is a superhuman. So what is he going to do in response? He is going to just pick himself back up and just act like nothing happened. Just totally okay with a 30-foot fall onto concrete. I mean, you know, it's just an average day for him, just a normal slip and fall. Unfortunately, though, Chef is not doing so good. He is having a bit of a struggle. We're going to try and talk to him to hang in there, and then we're going to give you guys a little bit of dialogue.
I should have spent more time with my son.
Should have spent more time with his son, but yeah, so now we need to get it back up there. How are we going to do it? We are going to jump all the way back up 30 feet, grab the ledge, and come up the exact way we came from, because again, Joshua is a superhuman, and I cannot stress that point enough because we continuously see his absolute feats of strength and, you know, immortality. But as we continue up here, we're going to come into a very, very cool area, because it's pretty much the only area that actually has a skip in the entire game. And before that, do you want to give us a little bit of a story thing about what's going on here, Suzuka?
So basically the helicopter crashed. Now Stephanie has gone over to the other side of the highway along with everyone else. And now we're basically trying to make our way over there, and we're going to do so in style, hopefully.
Hopefully. So I'm going to be a little bit quiet here because the skip can be a little bit wonky that we're going to be doing, but it's called the jet ski skip. In this area, we get a jet ski, and normally it wants us to traverse through this area, get through a building, and do a bunch of other stuff. However, we're going to be skipping that, and I'll let you explain it, Suzuka, as I do it.
So basically, we're going to be lining up the jet ski with a slanted wall, and that's going to allow us to get off the jet ski and through the wall. And we can actually walk over to the end of the level this way. And thankfully, there's actually a trigger which ends the level as well, which you can't actually access at all in a casual mode. So it's actually part of cut content, so it helps us out during the speed run.
And we got it. So we are now out of bounds. So we're just gonna, you know, run to the end of the level essentially. Nothing weird going on here, but yeah, basically this was supposed to be an area where I'm guessing we were allowed to walk through eventually, because Joshua, again showing off his superhuman strength, is just gonna walk on water and act like nothing is happening whatsoever.
And just to let you know what would happen otherwise, you'd have to bring the jet ski and then kind of like move a bunch of obstacles around. So doing it this way saves like 2 to 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. And then again, Joshua just going to narrowly outrun this huge torrent of water that is just going to completely decimate the bridge. And this is one of my favorite cutscenes of the game, because this just looks so good on a PS2, especially with a low-budget game like this. You can tell that the developers had a lot of passion to it, which is why I love this game, because even though it's so bad it's good, there's just so much heart into it and so much love, and that is like why this is like one of my favorite games ever. and I would highly recommend that you guys play it or at least watch a playthrough of it, because every single person's little playthrough is completely different, and it's great every single time. I know that I'm going to cherish the memory of playing through this and having no idea what was going to happen next. But thankfully, we were able to escape just narrowly. Normally, we try to go through that area with a jet ski, but we're just going to ignore that entirely. And yeah, that is the major kind of out of bounds glitch of the game. And now we're going to be returning back to Delray East Junction area, and we are going to be meeting back up with Stephanie. Only something kind of problematic has happened with her. You want to give a quick little explanation about what we're going to be doing here in a moment?
So basically, we're going to be running up. We're going to find Stephanie's a little bit in a tough spot, and she has this mother's baby daughter with her. So we're going to shout at her, get the baby daughter, and then we're going to do a little bit of the unthinkable, just to save time.
But it's okay. It's not that bad. I promise. Again, Joshua is a superhuman being, and he just wants to have a friend to go swimming with. So we're gonna take Beth with us. We're gonna jump into the water, and then we're gonna come right here. He's gonna have a nice little friendly swim with her, you know, splash around a little bit, and then we're gonna come back out of the water, dry as a bone, and with full HP. We do that to avoid having to slow walk in this area later on. And look, she's back with her mother, Jessica, and everything is perfectly okay. Nothing bad happened whatsoever. And then we're gonna have to go save. Stephanie, who has continued down the river just a little bit more. I don't know why she can't walk in this section. I don't know if she's too afraid, if she's injured. It doesn't really make it too apparent, but we gotta do a whole lot in order to get over there. So we have time for maybe 1 or 2 donations if you'd like to do so.
Certainly, I'd like to say that during ESA Together, the first 800 subs to ESA channel, we will be matched by a $2.50 donation from our sponsor HyperX. We are currently 6 away from 300 out of that 800, and we're also only $6 away from 4,100. So let's get those subs and donations.
Awesome. So right now, Joshua, he's going to take a leap of faith. He's going to be totally okay. Don't worry about it. That actually only damages our clothing, because again, our health is tied to our body temperatures, and that doesn't affect it. But Joshua, you know, he needs a bit of a break. He's been doing a lot of superhumaning around, and he just can't get this sign to move. So we are going to bring along Jessica's mother in order to help us out, because we need to get up to that way in order to save Stephanie from the top of the toll booth. There is a theoretical way to actually skip all of this, but it's pretty much tasks only. Suzuka, I think you got it maybe once in a emulator with save states and hitboxes.
Yeah, I've got it a few times. Basically, you have to kind of shimmy off the highway at the beginning at a certain point, and then jump onto an invisible pole, and then jump onto the toll booth from the invisible pole in a frame. It's really difficult to do, so you know, no one's gonna do it in RTA. But if they did, it would save like 3 minutes.
Yeah, and that would effectively kill this game, so as a speedrun, because no one would be able to replicate it. So if you guys are interested, you can try it out yourself at home, or you know, maybe find a way for a setup to do so. But we're gonna come back with Jessica's mother. We can just kind of outrun her, and she's gonna teleport right here and help us to move it. Unfortunately, he's not superhuman enough to show us how he moved it. He's just kind of oops, come on Joshua, I know you want to climb it. There we go. Just gonna magically teleport forward, and then he's gonna hang from this, I don't know, it's not a curtain, there's like a specific way for it, but he's gonna hang from this very dramatically. And now we're gonna be making our way over to Stephanie before some really kind of bad stuff happens, and we're also gonna be coming to the end of Joshua's story. So again, we are gonna be playing through multiple characters. I know we've been with Joshua for a long time. He's actually the longest character that we're gonna be playing as, but we got to know him. But don't worry, because we're gonna trigger that sign to begin falling, and then we're gonna make our way over here. And again, Joshua, superhuman strength. You guys haven't heard his story, it's as old as time. Just gonna climb up this ladder with Stephanie free hanging off of him, just like it's absolutely nothing. And oh, what's this? Christmas lights. Let's see what happens. I'm sure that, you know, they're gonna find some way to get over this, right? Well, what we're gonna do is Joshua is gonna climb down this rope with Stephanie hanging on top of him, survive this movement and being dunked into super fast flowing water, and then we're just gonna continue to shuffle forward. Don't pay attention to his arms. I promise that they're totally 100% okay with what is going on here. Gonna narrowly dodge that red car that's gonna be coming through. This toll booth is gonna be sinking down. Are we gonna be able to survive the hit? Looks like he's gonna get dunked in the water again, but you know what? He was smart enough to clench down on the rope, and he's gonna continue moving forward. Again, don't worry about the arms. He is totally 100% okay. And the two of them are gonna leap to safety and just barely make it without falling victim to Mother Nature. And now we're going to be coming to the end of Joshua's story, and I'm going to let Suzuka do the explanation because I'm going to make sure that I don't accidentally mash through the wrong text box, because if I did, it would be very bad.
So basically up here we have an opportunity to end the campaign early, and that's what we're going to do because it's going to save us like 30 minutes of doing the rest of the campaign, where basically we're going to board the rescue helicopter and leave Stephanie behind, and then go on to the next 5 or so characters we're going to do.
Yeah. So this is where our stories end. It is actually possible to save Stephanie and bring her along with us, and we just don't know what happens to her mother. But unfortunately, that requires an extra dialogue box, and you know, we're trying to go fast, so it's kind of saving the frames. You know, Stephanie, I'm sure you would understand. But that is going to be Joshua. He is actually able to escape without Jessica, and that is going to be the first major character choice that is going to affect us later on down the line. I'm not going to spoil it just yet, but that was very important what we did there. And we're going to meet our next character, Amber Brazil. If you remember, she is the very dangerous criminal who is 5'6" in a pink jacket and handcuffs. So Amber, this is where the game starts to get more heavily into the political plotline and conspiracy that it gets into. But essentially, Amber is framed for murder. She didn't actually murder anybody, but everybody thinks that she does. And her entire story is about finding out who really killed her brother and clearing her name. We're not going to be doing a whole lot of that, but we are going to be doing most of it. So this is a flashback sequence before the natural disaster, where we're just going to having a nice little visit with our brother. We're going to see his door ajar, which is a little weird. We're going to continue on into his main living room, and we're going to run into a character named Jaden. Jaden is somebody who is very important in this storyline and another storyline later on, but again, we're not going to see too much of him because of the routes that we go. There is a route where we get the best endings and experience pretty much the entire game, and that's called the Type A route. It hasn't really been practiced too much, and it's a lot longer for a lot more story, so to speak. We learned a lot more about Amber, Isaac, and a few other characters as well. But that's where you basically get the best endings rather than just the quickest ones. But we're going to come into his room. We can see that's been completely ransacked, and we're going to find a music box. It actually is playing the main theme of the game that is very, very good. The music in this game is objectively good. I love it. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just really good. But all of a sudden we get a notification at the door saying that the police are here. So Amber is going to go to the door and, explain very, very calmly that she didn't murder her brother. And then we run into him again, Detective Trapp, who, if you remember, was the guy who was at the very beginning who we ratted out Amber to as Joshua. So that's where the connection is between these two characters. And again, that is very important for this route. But unfortunately, they don't believe us when we say we didn't kill our brother, and Detective Trapp does not like us at all. He hates us. So much so, in fact, that he does some very, very bad things in order to make sure that we are like in the worst situation possible.
Shut up and be.
Hey.
So we're gonna continue on right here. We're gonna shout twice. We're gonna get told to shout twice, and then Amber's gonna use her superhuman powers to blow a gigantic hole in the wall. No, I'm just kidding. She is not as nearly strong or powerful as Joshua, but this is where the natural disaster begins to kick in for her story. So we're going to vault over here. We're going to come into the locker room, and we're going to see that a police officer has been pinned down by a shelving unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to come right here. We're going to use a towel bar, and that is going to allow us to grab his keys, which have fallen in between the gap. And then we're just going to say goodbye to the Mr. Policeman. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen to him. We're also going to discard this towel bar. How she was able to pick up the keys with that, I have no idea. But we're going to come right over here. This gate is locked, so we are going to use the key ring to unlock it. And it looks like we're going to be able to get out of here safely. And oh no. It's him again. It's the detective who hates us. So he's going to come in and be like, hey, you're trying to escape. We're going to tell him, hey, there's a police car that's stuck in the back and needs help. And he's going to immediately accuse us of killing the person, handcuff us so we cannot escape, and then lock us in the basement so we inevitably drown. Yeah, he is not a very good character. He is kind of a meanie, if I do say so myself. But thankfully, I was planning for this. I never expect him to be nice. Maybe one day he'll let us escape with him to the basement and get to safety. But until then, we're going to be doing a different strategy. So we're going to be heading back right over here. Going to trigger a cutscene that is going to open up a doorway, which is going to be over on the side right here. And as we're coming through this area, do you want to explain what police skip is?
So basically, there's a few stealth sections in this game, and instead of playing by the game's rules, we're going to shout in order to get the police guards' attention, and then just run by them because they have no peripheral vision at all.
Yeah, they're not very good at avoiding or figuring people out. So we're gonna shout right there. He's gonna turn around the other way. Oh no, I messed it up. Okay. So I was a little too slow, but that is going to be okay. We actually don't go too far back. I'll give it one more attempt, and then if not, we'll just wait for him. Normally, we have to wait for him to turn back around and then turn back the other way or do something different. There we go. All right, so we shout right over there. That catches his attention, and then we just sneak by. Now, normally what we need to do is we need to get a police officer's outfit and trick a guard into letting us out. However, that would be slow, and this also enables us to get a different character's ending later on. So we are going to just knock that over. I'm sure nothing bad will happen from doing so, and Amber caused a huge explosion. So
yeah,
we're just gonna go. We're just gonna let somebody else with a little bit more wits handle that.
Don't worry about it. I'm sure Amber is still not a murderer.
I'm sure she definitely isn't, but that is very, very important. Even if it was faster to get the police officer's outfit, we would still go over to the gas tank and knock it down because it helps us out later on with another character choice, because character choices before will affect characters later on. We're also going to be returning back to a very familiar area. Now, I want to mention that normally we'd have to watch every single cutscene that I'm skipping. However, thankfully, we have beaten the game on a different save file, so it allows us to skip it. It's technically New Game Plus, but not exactly. That makes it so basically any cutscene that has no dialogue choices is skippable, basically, and it saves a lot of time throughout the run. So there is another policeman skip that we could do here. However, it is the hardest one, and I'm not going to attempt it. Instead, we're going to wait for the cycle. What we'd have to do is we'd have to run in a very specific direction, shout in a very specific direction, hide in a very specific direction, and run in a very specific direction again. And it is very difficult. But hey, look, it's Joshua, the superhuman, and Stephanie. I sure do hope nothing bad gets us pointed out right here. Aw, Joshua. That's fine. We get to hear this line again that we actually cannot skip.
Don't you even think about running?
And I don't know how he's able to get her hands behind her back with the handcuffs on. I tried to phase through handcuffs through my body, but unfortunately I'm just not like Amber. Or maybe Trap. Maybe he's the one that does it. I'm not too sure. But we get put in the police car. This actually skips a huge part. Normally he wouldn't spawn us and we could continue on through the construction site's other side and end up pretty much in the same exact area that we're going to end up in right now. So we skipped going through all of that. On a casual playthrough, I would recommend not ratting her out because you get to see a lot more content and get to unlock a couple more goodies. But it's your choice, because that's the cool thing about this game is you get to do whatever you want in it within a certain PS2 limit. But anyway, we're going to crawl our way through here, get Amber out of that, I guess, sewer drain? I'm not too sure what that is. And we're going to trigger a massive, massive flood. So we saw this as Joshua earlier. We're going to narrowly escape it as it begins to flood the entire streets. And we're to learn something. Even though Mother Nature is trying to kill us every once in a while, she does have our back for a couple of things. She agrees that this is the worst detective that she has ever seen in her entire life. So she's going to assist us a little bit because we're going to run into him again. How did he end up there when he ran back the other way? I don't know. But we're basically going to tell him we didn't kill our brothers, and he's going to go, I don't care, and then pulls out his gun and says, just another day in paradise. But we grab onto this pole, and he gets swept away. And now we don't have to worry about him for a little bit while longer. Do you want to explain more about like what that dialogue choice is that you were mentioning before, Suzuka?
Yeah, there's actually a few time paradoxes in this game, and an interesting thing you could do is actually say that you did kill her brother, and then later on, earlier in the timeline, with another character, the police officers will be like, yeah, she's saying she did it for the money. It's a bit odd.
Doesn't make sense. But we're going to meet another character that we actually met a little bit earlier. We didn't really see him too much, but he was with Mayor Goldstein at the very beginning of the game, and he's the guy who had to rush off to the bathroom because he just could not hold it. And you know, I understand sometimes when you gotta go, you gotta go. But we're going to meet up with him. He's going to see that we're a fugitive, but we're just going to be like, no, we're innocent. And he goes, okay, I totally believe you. So I'm going to help you escape the police. Also, we get more trash RNG. Again, this is also random. I've only been blocked here once on the small little path that it happens over, and it was very annoying that it happened. But thankfully, we're just going to make it through without any issues. So we're going to continue to follow Aiden, and we're going to come to the third policeman skip. This one doesn't save as much time. Normally, we have to wait for Aiden, and what he's going to do is he's going to distract the guards with a friendly conversation as we sneak by them. However, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. One, we're going to go over to that nearby bonfire and use it to dry our clothing so we don't slow walk later on. And we are also going to yell at a very specific spot in order to cause the guard to turn around towards us and then turn away faster. I think it saves like maybe 10 seconds. If you do it correctly. It's probably one of these slower ones, but nevertheless, it's also the safest one, thankfully. This is also Aiden. He kind of learns exactly who we are and that we've been all over the news. Again, I don't know why nobody likes Amber. She gets the short end of the stick pretty much the entirety of her story, and it just only will go downhill from here. But we're going to run over this way. We're going to come over here. Once we're about halfway, we're going to shout. That's going to grab this guard's attention. He's going to turn and be like, huh, what was that? And then eventually he's going to turn away, and now we can head back down, and we skip Aiden having to go over there and have a friendly conversation with him. So now, would you like to give a little bit of a story explanation as to their conversation here?
Yeah, so basically in this conversation, Amber is going to recount the events of the chapter up to now to Aiden, being like, hey, my brother was murdered. I was going there. I found his door open. A man in a suit barged out of the room, and they actually found the murder weapon with my fingerprint. And, you know, Aiden is chill with it. He's going to be like, yeah, you totally murdered your brother, but I'll help you out anyways.
Yeah, he literally says, well, based on what you told me, you're clearly the murderer, but I'm still going to trust you. It's very, very weird, and he's a very awkward guy, so you have to at least give him prompts for you know, having trust in somebody. But we're going to come through a very similar area, so if you remember when we were using the speed handle to go save Stephanie, this is the same area, and what this allows us to do is go through this area normally. If we went through that area with the lighter in our hand, we would have set a wreath on fire, a Christmas wreath, and that would have caused police officers to spawn here, and that would be very slow. And now we're going to head down this way. Aiden is going to decide to go first onto these very rickety train carts, subway carts, I'm not too sure. And we're going to be careful here because it's very easy with the camera angles to just accidentally walk off. And look at that, character choices do matter, and I wasn't lying to you, because look at that. Because Joshua moved that pipe instead of going the normal way, it causes all of this to come crashing towards us, and now we are going to begin to float away. So this is very important though, because we actually need this for a specific ending. And that specific ending is the one where we go off and basically admit that we killed our brother. So we're going to come over this way, we're going to bounce very carefully, and hey look, a helicopter. Aiden is going to call us over and be like, hey, come over to me, you know, let's get out of here. And Amber, you know, she decides that he's a kind of a weirdo. He's not very friendly. He called us a murderer. So we're going to go talk to these very nice construction workers. And do you want to give a little fun fact here, the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, actually, for this ending, you have to basically say, hey, I'm tired of running. After this long speech from Aiden over here. And there's actually, you know, all of us have kind of failed this a few times because there's actually 3 choices you can select, but only 2 of them are selectable. And if you try and select the third one, it'll go back to the top, and then you'll have to listen to all this again.
Yeah, so I'll show you right here. I'm pressing down on it, and it just keeps on going back up. It never will ever go over I'm ready to get arrested. Thankfully, though, I'm tired of running gives the same exact option, and we are actually going to turn ourselves into the very, very evil detective. Is that the right word for him? But we basically say we're not going to run anymore, and he carries us off to jail, and we go to prison. So not a very good ending. On your casual playthrough, I recommend going through the main story because, again, it gives you more about the political conspiracy and explains, you know, what really happened to Amber's brother David. But for now, this is kind of a glitch cutscene. It's supposed to start the text for the survivor story, which continues on. However, it just keeps on going for a little bit longer than it needs to, so now is a good time for maybe a donation or 2.
Of course, I just want to remind everyone that we are ESA Together if you just tuned in, because there's morning in Europe, so maybe someone woke up or just started working remotely. ESA Together is a week-long online marathon that will feature speedrunners and score attackers from all around the world. We will be ran to support ESA and other affiliated events increased costs this year connected with the coronavirus outbreak. We also advise you to stay home, so we provide you with many good speedruns all around the week. You can check them out or horara.org/ESA/Together2020 to see what are your favorite games that you run. For example, is it Road Danger that is now? Is it DMC that is going to become later? Who knows? Check them out on our schedule.
All right, and that is Amber. So we are 2 characters down, and we're going to come up to one of my personal favorites and one of So's personal favorites as well. Isaac Schillner, just the run-of-the-mill taxi driver. And this is probably one of the coolest characters in the game because you actually get to drive a car. I did not expect that in my first playthrough. It doesn't handle very well, but it just is very interesting. And of course, the coolest character is going to be the shortest one, by far. So his main story is he wants to make money. Who doesn't want to make money? And he needs to go pick up some very wealthy clients. So when he hears about the opening of Downtown Geo with Mayor Goldstein, he goes, hey, I bet there's going to be a lot of rich people there. I could find a wealthy customer. That's his main motivation to drive around, basically, until eventually he runs into another character. And it's kind of unfortunate because his storyline is actually the coolest and really goes down the rabbit hole of the conspiracy storyline that's kind of taken a backseat to the regular plotline that we've been going through. But we're going to be driving around now, and I'm going to be very careful not to crash into anything because otherwise some text will pop up that says, hey, you should be careful when you're going, otherwise you will crash and damage your car. Which doesn't really matter to us other than the text box popping up, so I'm going to be a little bit careful with my driving. But for now, Suzuka, do you want to explain kind of the next opening cutscene and kind of discuss exactly what's going on?
Yeah, so as far as the speedrun is concerned, we'll be picking up a client who has no money, so she basically just plans to stiff us. But in a normal casual playthrough, she would kind of lead us through a political investigation, kind of uncover what's really going on. But for now, we kind of don't care about her, so we're just gonna go on and try and escape the city.
And again, what we do here as his character, say it with me folks, is going to affect our characters later on. And this one is probably the biggest one in the game, so to speak. So just keep that in mind for the end of the run. But we're going to go through here, we're going to match through some dialogue, we're going to get out of this traffic, and we're going to go back to another area that I think you guys are going to be very familiar with because we just visited it as Amber.
I'm sure nothing bad will happen here.
Absolutely not. Listen, there has not been a single bad thing that has happened during this entire disaster. But anyway, we're going to get more driving for about maybe 15 seconds total. We're gonna drive up to here. Gonna stop at a red light because Isaac is a very responsible driver, and you know he understands that in a natural disaster it'd be a horrible idea to speed through a red light. And you know he's a good guy. He knows how to drive, which is much better than some of the taxis that I have taken. But unfortunately, somebody is not going to be able to control their car, and they are going to crash. And our companion, whose name I'm completely forgetting. Says, okay, can you remind me?
It's Sophia Briggs.
Sophia Briggs, that's right, a journalist. She's gonna go make sure everything is okay. I don't know why. I think she just kind of wants to get the scoop. But we have to go park our car. So before we can follow her, we are gonna come over here. I'm gonna avoid hitting any of the curves. Never mind, I'm just gonna bounce off that like bumper carts. And we're gonna get out of our car and see, parked it perfectly, absolutely flawlessly. And then Isaac is just gonna run straight into traffic, but don't worry, nobody's gonna hit him. They're just gonna honk their horns angrily at us as we meet back up with Sophia. So what's going on right now in the plot line is Sophia is asking about Amber because she hears that David, who is Amber's brother, died, and she's trying to figure out what exactly is going on because she's very, very curious. At this point in the story, it doesn't really tell us why she's doing all this stuff. It's not really apparent until later on. But basically, she's going to say, alright, now that we've gotten here, we need to go to a different place. We're going to go back to David's apartment. However, what's Amber doing over there? Amber, you're just gonna knock that over? Just gonna walk on by, you know? Oh no, Amber! So, she's gonna cause that oil tanker to explode, and that's gonna set off a very bad chain of events. But very good for speed because it's going to allow us to get what's a kind of a secret ending. I guarantee that maybe 1% of players on their casual playthrough actually got this ending because it's very weird about the specific parameters in order to do so. So Isaac, we're gonna leave her behind. I'm not sure if she's injured or just what's going on, but Isaac is very much about self-preservation. You know, he cares about his customers, but they have to pay him, and I think that's a very valid argument for an employee to really want his, you know, customers to pay. So we're gonna come right over here, and you know, keep in mind Sophie is still trapped down there. When I come right over here, we're gonna match to the cutscene. Normally, the game wants us to navigate her over to a safe spot. However, we have to make sure our taxi's okay because, you know, something could have fell on our taxi, and that just wouldn't be good. So we're gonna come over here, and a worker is gonna come over, and he's gonna say, hey, do you want to get rescued? And we're gonna go leave my customer and evacuate because we gotta get out of here. No, it's a very dangerous area. Why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? Yeah, oh well. I'm sure that if I don't remember, then it's not gonna be important later on. But that is Isaac's chapter. So we are now 3 characters down, and we're gonna be meeting somebody new. And I accidentally saved, but that's okay. We'll just go through here. You can see how nice the menu is. This game is actually very, very generous with the saves. But gonna cancel that, exit the saving, and we're gonna continue on. And we don't need to worry about the epilogue either. Just pretend like I didn't hit the wrong button. It'll be okay. But meet Paige Meyer. Now keep in mind, this is in New York. It's a very American state. Unfortunately, though, there's no getting around this. This is a Japanese school with a Japanese outfit, and there's just no possible way without completely redesigning this entire area that they could have localized this. So they just didn't bother, which I can't really blame them. It's a lot of work. But Paige Meyer is a bullied girl. And, you know, a lot of the stuff that happens to her is actually terrible, like full-on criminal bullying. That the game kind of glosses over. One of the things that happens is Paige gets shoved into a locker after the evacuation notices, and we just get left behind completely. So, a lot of the story is basically explaining why all these terrible things happen to us, like who's the perpetrator, and then whether or not we want to save the perpetrator. The good thing is we actually get Paige's best ending because it is the fastest. Essentially, your only options, you get 3 different options. Well, technically 4, but in our scenario, only 3 available. And you can either save Emily, leave Emily, or taunt Emily until you eventually fall off an edge. So we're going to be saving Emily, we're going to be forgiving her for all those mean things. And fun fact, because of the newest release of this game, sequel, Disaster Report 4, we actually know which ending is canon. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but if you want to play a new modern version of this game, you are able to do so. It actually came out on April 7th, so for some people like Suzuka, if I can get around this corner, I don't want to fall off. For some people like Suzuka, or maybe a few other people in his nearby time zone, the game just came out today, and it just came out for me as well. So, in that game, we also made another character named Kelly Austin. Kelly Austin is a staple in the series. She is in every single game in this entire series, and she's a pretty important character, mostly due to the fact that she's one of the only blonde characters, or non-blonde characters, I should say. So, yeah, if you want to see her modern rendition, which looks extremely different, make sure to check out Disaster Report 4, because it's a very fun game. Suzuka, you've been playing it. How have you been enjoying your time with it so far in comparison to Raw Danger?
Yeah, I think it's a good experience, although you have to kind of keep in mind it's a lot more narrative focused. It's a bit more serious. Actually, one of the examples of this is if you're running and a quake happens, you'll fall flat on your face. So if you want kind of a more campy experience, I would recommend Raw Danger. But if you want the more narrative, story-driven stuff, you can check out Disaster Report 4. It's on Steam right now.
Yeah, it's very cool, but it's just hilarious to me that this game came out in 2006, and it's like, it's still a series that is going and is still readily available to play, and it's such a fun, unique game that there aren't many like it. And mostly, there aren't many like it because of what's coming up here right now. So this got toned down heavily in the American version, but we're gonna meet somebody whose name is Mr. Savage. I am not joking, that is not his nickname, that is not like a community thing that we all came up with. His name is canonically Mr. Savage. I don't even think we know what his first name is. But, he really earns his name. Let's just say that.
We don't really care for Mr. Savage, so we're just kind of ignore him and run the other way.
Yeah, running the other way is a very literal sense, because this is Mr. Savage. There's just something a little off about him. I'm not really too sure. I can't pick it up. He has the creeper hand, like, this guy is bad news, so we're gonna run away from him because he just seems like nothing but trouble. So this part isn't too difficult. We're literally just gonna turn and hightail it as far away as possible from him. And fun fact, if we played through Isaac's campaign more, we would actually run into him here, so to speak, and things could go really badly if you're playing as Isaac and you aren't paying attention. But thankfully, we were able to get away from Mr. Savage, and for now, we are safe. So we're going to continue to head on, and we're trying to meet up with Kelly, the character that is one of the only non-blondes in this game, and we need to help her out. We're also going to get a cutscene right here that literally says, hey, we locked the door, you better just hope for the best if you want to survive. Thankfully, though, we are going to find the key, but that note is from Emily Rose, who is the main villain of this, like, little campaign, I guess is the best word to say. But we're going to head over here, we grab that fire hose because it's a very important object that we're going to need here in just a moment, because Kelly, unfortunately, has gone trapped by a piano. Now, I'm not sure if the piano was in the hallway beforehand or if it managed to squeeze through the extremely narrow doorway in the music room. I'll leave it up to your lore interpretations and your headcanon, because I don't know the answer. I'm sorry. But what we're going to do is we're going to channel Joshua's energy in order to move this piano just enough to get Kelly out of there so she's no longer stuck. And I'm not a physicist, I'm not an engineer, I'm not anything like that, but I'm really not too sure how using a fire hose in this specific way would actually allow it to help. I think those things are very much like bungees almost, and would just kind of start to stretch out rather than hold any weight. But again, I'm not a firefighter, I'm not anybody who is an expert on that, so I could be totally wrong. But we are going to save Kelly, and we're going to have a bit of a conversation with her where we learn more about her past and get a couple of nods to the original game Disaster Report. If you would like to give us like a little summary of this conversation that we're going to be going through, feel free to do so, Suzuka.
Yeah, so basically, as was mentioned before, Kelly shows up in the 4th game as well. She also shows up in the 3rd Japanese PSP game and the 1st game. So it's kind of an inside joke as well that she's kind of, bringing bad luck to all the cities. But throughout this game and the fourth game, she basically learns, you know, to overcome bad obstacles and things like that as well.
Yeah, and something kind of weird is that the first 2 games in the series were localized. They were, you know, turned into their own American versions. The third one, which was a PSP only game, never got a localization. It is only available in Japanese. And then Disaster Report 4 was not localized, it was translated, meaning it is the same exact game as the Japanese version, but it has English text instead of Japanese text. And so because of that stuff, it makes it a very wonky timeline, because technically there are 2 Kellys in this canonical universe. But anyway, we're going to follow close behind on Kelly, and Mother Nature is going to both harm us and help us, because Mr. Savage is going to show up back again, and he's going to try and punish us for failing our final exams. But unfortunately, you know, we're trying to practice social distancing, and we just don't really want to do that with him so close to us. So thankfully though, Mother Nature is going to kick in again. She's going to go, oh wow, I'm sorry for collapsing that floor. Let me give you a bit of a hand here. That's going to knock Mr. Savage off, and because he doesn't have the strength of Joshua, he is not going to survive that fall. And one thing to notice is Kelly is just kind of apathetic towards what just happened. She just goes, well, that was weird, and continues on without saying a word about it. So now we're coming up to the second part of the Delray High School area. We're going to be returning here later on, because we have to do some more things here as a different character. But for now, we have evac to the gym. Everybody's going to be over here, and now we need to wait for a helicopter that is going to come to the rooftop of the high school and save us. We're going to meet a few characters here, and now I'm going to do the only thing that I have contributed to this round. The rest of this work has been purely based off of Suzuka and another excellent runner named Rosenberg, who has been doing a lot of the work for this game, so we have to thank them. Otherwise, I would not be able to show off this excellent thing. But what we're going to do is, he wants us to go outside to investigate something. We're not going to go outside. We're just going to open the door and say we went outside. Also going to grab onto the ground because that's going to collapse and try and knock us over. But we're just going to tell the principal, hey, we're outside. There's no one there. And we're also going to be meeting another new character named Dr. Sprite. I mean Dr. Spritz, not Dr. Sprite. We want to avoid that. And he's going to come in and basically go, wow, I caused a lot of havoc. And if we've been paying more attention to the political conspiracy, we kind of have a vague idea of what is going on versus no idea of what is going on. But he's going to be shouting a bunch of nonsense. We're really not going to understand any of them. But basically, we're going to learn that there's a helicopter on the rooftop and we need to get out of here. So the principal, who's also one of the few characters that is not blonde, is going to be like, we need to get out of here. And we're going to follow behind. Now, we get an option here. We are going to meet Emily. Emily is this girl who has been very, very mean to us. And we're going to get a little bit of redemption here. Not a whole lot, because we are going to be saving her in the end after doing some terrible, terrible things to us. But we get a little bit of instant karma, so to speak, with her in the situation. So normally the game wants you to just be like, I forgive you. However, I'm trying to go fast here. And she wants us to help her up. However, she is very, very slow. So we are going to leave her behind, and we are not going to carry her like Joshua did for the construction worker, because Paige is not part of the superhuman program, so she's not able to do so. But don't worry, Emily is going to be making it over here just fine, albeit with a limp. I also want to give a quick little warning. There are a couple of sections with the lighting where it breaks, there's lightning strikes, and it causes some white flashing. So if you are epileptic or sensitive to light, look away just for a couple of minutes and I'll let you know when it's good to do so. It's kind of random if it happens or not, but it's not really something that I can control. So I would just look away for a few moments for the flash of light. And I'll let you know when it's safe to do so. But Emily's going to continue to follow us behind. See, she's fine. She didn't need our help. And again, I just want to point out, this is a very Japanese school. Schools in America do not look like this. I mean, I could be wrong, but I've never seen one in this style or format. But we're going to be making our way up to the rooftop. And, oh no! So this is where the ending choices come in. Nothing mattered up until this point, and how we talked to Emily. We used to think it was faster to save her, and then we thought, oh, what if we leave her? But that's way slower because we have to watch a cutscene. So what we're going to do here is we're going to match through the dialogue, and we are going to pull her up and save us and take us on the rescue chopper with us. Because we're nice. We are going to forgive her. We are going to rise above her meanness and continue on. And a fun fact, too, she is one of the only characters that actually returns back to Disaster Report 4. I don't know why they decided to bring her back, but she's in there. Although it's her Japanese self, but it's also in the same universe, but it's different cities and different characters, but they're the same. It doesn't make any sense, and please don't ask me, because I'm not a lore expert. Suzuka here, he knows everything about this game. I don't. But yeah.
So as far as the continuity, I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know how Disaster Report 2 feeds into Disaster Report 4 just yet.
And like, even though it was never localized, is Disaster Report 3 canon? Is it not canon? Did it happen? Did it happen in the Japanese universe? I'm sorry, this game is an absolute mess, which is why I love it. But that was Paige Meyer's story, and if you guys have been keeping track, we are now 4 out of the 6 characters through this game. So we are getting to the end, folks, and I want to appreciate you all sticking around to watch this amazing game. And we're going to come up to the second longest characters area, and he also kind of has the most tech and the most movement to him, so it's very fun when you're doing world record attempts and you get to this guy and you mess something up, because then you have to start all the way over back to the very beginning and hope that your run is at a similar pace as the last one. I have lost 2 or 3 runs on this character because there's a lot that we're going to be doing, and I'm going to be trying to explain all of it, but I also might rely on my buddy Suzuki here to kind of pick up my slack. But we're going to be a man who has amnesia. He's one of 2 characters that we cannot name ourselves. You can actually name Paige, Josh, Amber, whatever you want. We're not going to do so. Fun fact, if you want to speedrun this game, you actually can, because the timing is based off of IGT and not RTA. But in the meantime, do you want to explain a little bit the story that's going on here, Suzuka, and what we're going to be doing next?
So we actually find this character on the floor here because you could actually rescue him as Amber, but you know, that's later on in the playthrough and we don't have time for that. But we're gonna meet up with one of, actually, what was it? The girlfriend of Amber's brother is gonna come up to us and basically ask us for help in figuring out who actually killed David.
And her name is Sierra Young, who, if we've been not matching through the dialogue and did the conspiracy, we would know who this is. But do you want to explain what we're going to be doing here in just a moment?
So we're basically just going to be walking into the water here, just accepting our fates, you know, in order to reset ourselves and get ourselves stride.
Yeah, again, you know, this character's name is Ivan. We learned that from her. He's just gonna have a nice, you know, little dip in the water here. You know, don't worry about what's going on. He's totally okay. But because we didn't save him as Amber, he spawns with half HP. And if you saw climbing those stairs, he is very slow. Now he is very, very fast. I'm gonna be angling my camera in a very specific way. So this game runs beautifully for the most part. But some areas, if you are looking at a certain direction, it might cause some lag. So I'm doing this in order to reduce it. And what we're going to do is we're going to yell right there. This is one of the last shout texts that we can do. It's going to alert this guy who we need to help us carry Sierra Young into safety. It just skips us having to walk all the way over to him. And we're also going to learn that we're a doctor. Now, Sierra Young, we find her in the freezing cold. So we learned that she has a fever. So after being in the freezing cold for so long, we need to find something to help her fever that she got from being in the rain too long. And what a better way to stop a fever than getting an ice patch. So we're going to get the freezing woman an ice patch in order to heal her. Ivan's a doctor. He's definitely not a medical doctor. I can tell you that right now. But we're going to head to the convenience store. You also saw me pick up some ores. Do you want to explain like what exactly that is for later on and why it's weird?
So basically we're going to have to boat out onto the water later on, and you know, there's kind of items all around the map that you're supposed to pick up and assemble into makeshift ores to use with the boats, but for some reason they just give you these completely assembled ores in this back alley somewhere. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I guess it's a soft lock prevention, but it kind of kills the point of it. But anyway, we're going to give her the icy patch, and then we're going to go, she is still not feeling very well. What do we do about that? Well, let's examine our stethoscope And we're going to learn that her body is cold. So after getting a fever, she is now cold again because we put an icy patch on her head in order to stop the freezing woman from having a fever. So what we're going to do is we're going to shout right here. Is that going to catch his attention? It does. Awesome. And that's going to be the last shout tank of the game. But he's going to give us a blanket. So that way, the freezing cold woman who got a fever that we used an icy patch on to cool her back down, who is shivering now, we're going to warm her back up, and she's going to be totally okay. Fun fact, the manual for this game actually does give a couple of survival tips that you can apply to the real world. This area is not one of them. Please do not try anything that this guy is doing in order to help heal somebody. It won't work. But thankfully, Sierra eventually regains consciousness and explains what our name is. We are Ivan Kozlov, who worked with her boyfriend David at a pharmaceutical company called NorCal. And do you want to kind of give a little bit more lore behind this and exactly what we're going to be dealing with? Because this character is knee-deep in the conspiracy theory, and it's really hard, no matter what ending you get, to avoid that.
So basically, Ivan actually works for NorCal, which is basically a company at the center of the political conspiracy. And it turns out he was kind of working on a little bad projects. And, you know, things went bad, and David wanted out of the project as well, but unfortunately, that cost him his...
Yeah, think of, if we want to compare it to Resident Evil, maybe, he's kind of like William Bergen and, I don't know the other name. He's kind of like William Bergen, though, in some senses. But anyway, we're going to come back over here right now. Gonna come over to this, and what's this? An inflatable air mattress. We can use this as a boat. So we're gonna talk to this rescue worker who's been so nice to us, and we're gonna tell him that we want to use his mattress to let the lady to rest, who he helped us save. And you know, we're just gonna marry way. Just nothing wrong here. Don't worry about what these guys are doing. So this sweet guy is going to help us carry the air mattress all the way over to this, you know, dirty ditch water. Is gonna help us put it on there, and he's just gonna go, oh well, you're the doctor, so this must be a weird thing. I'll let you, and just walks away, just totally okay with us putting the air mattress in the water to help Sierra Young rest. Alright, do you want to explain what we're going to be doing here? Also, really quick, we're going to be doing another death abuse, where what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting Ivan back to full HP, because he's constantly in the rain, and his science code doesn't actually protect him very much. So upcoming right here after this cutscene, we're going to be jumping off out of David's apartment, and that's going to give us full HP once again.
So coming up here, we're going to see Dr. Sprite, or Dr. Spritz rather. He's going to tell us basically, hey, it's all our fault that all the bad stuff is happening. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, dude. I have amnesia. But I guess we should go to my apartment and figure out what's going on anyways.
But in the meantime, though, we need to get a little bit more information about this secret thing that we were working on, this secret project that we don't know too much about. We're going to try again right here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go access David's laptop, and that's going to give us some information on something called Project Echidna. Project Echidna was something that Ivan was working on, and we get the sense from it, we don't know right now, but we figure out later on that maybe Ivan's not the good guy. Maybe he's the bad guy. It's not too apparent just yet. We just know that there's Echidna and there's things bad about it. And we also learned of a man named Mr. Apollon, who we're going to be learning about more later on. But we're going to be coming up to a boat section now, and this is the worst part of the game for me. This boat is the worst controlling boat in the world. The jet ski is so nice to control, turns on a dime. This thing, we're practically going to have to turn in the opposite direction in order to control this boat. As you can see, we're rushing down this. I have very little control here, and I'm going to try and turn my boat basically in like a 90-degree angle in order to get out of this river's current as quick as I can. We need to head over this way, and I'm going to be doing a lot of wiggling. If you do get motion sickness, you might not want to look here, because I'm going to be like trying to turn this, but you can see I'm literally having to turn so much in order just to go a smidgen more left. So this is definitely a problematic area for me, so I'm going to be kind of concentrating a little bit. But right now we're making our way back over to Ivan's apartment, and thankfully Sierra Young knows where Ivan's apartment is. I don't know how she knows where it is, but she does, which is thankful, because again, we hit her head and we still have amnesia. And the main thing about his character is like we're supposed to be deciding if we want to be a good guy or a bad guy, essentially. Also, just to give you guys a little bit of a scare, we're going to jump into the water, and it's just called a swag strat. We're going to come into here, and we're going to use the air mattress. That's going to inflate it, and we're going to be 100% okay. So we're going to continue through here. It's kind of a cool little area. We're actually in the side part of a building, and eventually furniture is going to start falling out of the doorways. We're going to continue on our merry way right here. And as you can't tell, I am mashing X as hard as I can because that makes our boat go faster. Thankfully, we're going to get an actual boat later on, which controls exactly the same as an air mattress, only I don't have to mash, I can just hold the button, which is nice for me. But do you want to give an explanation about this next coming area and maybe tell us like what would happen if we made some choices earlier on?
So basically, we're going to see a cutscene where Sierra Young gets into a spot of trouble. And normally Joshua would be coming for the same area at the same time, but since we left with him earlier, he can't help Sierra out. So we're basically going to have to take it upon ourselves to get Sierra out of there because we need her to uncover the conspiracy.
Yeah, and we get a lot more information as well if we wanted to do so. We really skip a lot of content in this game. It doesn't seem like it with how long it is and how much we've already seen beforehand, but I would say we skip like maybe 40 to 50% of the game by getting the quickest endings.
Oh yeah, certainly. We skip half of the first 2 chapters. We skip like 80 to 90% of the 3rd chapter, and then like the 4th and 5th chapter are already pretty short. We end up skipping a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But there is something kind of cool, and that's the fact that this speedrun, this game has multiple endings, if you couldn't tell. And because of that, we actually get a really rare ending that I would say, again, maybe 1% of the population got on their first playthrough. Probably a little bit less, but it's kind of cool because there's so many like specific parameters that we meet to get this ending that it's just kind of neat that it even happens in the first place. And it makes me wonder, like, did the developers really plan for people to get this their first try? Or was this more like they thought it would be multiple playthroughs before anybody found this? But either way, normally we'd be running into Joshua and Stephanie here, and we get an option as Joshua whether or not we want to help Ivan go save his friend. But because we don't meet them in this playthrough, because we've already escaped as Joshua, and we don't really know what happens to Stephanie, we're just going to continue on, pick up that jack, and that's going to allow us to move the rubble and save Sierra Young before continuing back to our apartment.
And actually, because all we need is the jack, ironically, this part is a lot faster if Joshua does not show.
Mm-hmm. Like, normally Joshua will help us. He'll come down here, and we'll help him move all this pile of rubble. But thankfully, we can just use this jack. And again, I'm not really sure this would work, and I'm not sure if Sierra Young would be in a position where she would actually be able to walk after falling that far with all this heavy metal construction on top of her. But you know what? We're just going to assume that she and Joshua were roommates at the Superhero Academy and that she has equal strength to him as well. But we're going to be coming up to Ivan's apartment in no area that we haven't seen just yet. We're also going to start slow walking here. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's kind of just RNG, but we're going to be doing another death abuse coming up here in a moment, so we're not going to be losing too much time because of this. And do you want to explain exactly what's going on for the story-wise that we're having right in this area as I continue to do some little mini-game puzzles?
Yeah, so basically we're going to pick up 2 documents that kind of explain the bulk of the political conspiracy. Basically, Ivan here was in charge of manufacturing part of a disease that a political organization was planning to release at the dam pretty much at this time, but they were interrupted due to the disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually going to find out that the container is over at the high school, and you know, people over there are getting sick from this disease, but we're going to go and try and destroy it.
Right, and I also didn't really mention this, but we have, every single character has their own talent. If you're wondering what Joshua's talent is, it's hugging. He's a very good hugger. So Ivan's talent is remembering things, and we're going to do this tiny little quick puzzle, and this is going to help us remember what our tie with echidna is. And what he learns here is that we made with David Brazil a virus called echidna. Think about the T virus, only it doesn't turn people into zombies. It's pretty much relatively the same thing. And this is where the game, he starts to remember more things, and we kind of learn, like, it kind of lets you decide, do you want to be a good guy or a bad guy? Do you want to regret making it, or do you want to be happy that you made it? So it really lets you choose whether or not you want to be the hero or the villain, so to speak. All right. So we're going to be doing another death abuse. It's going to be one of the last ones that we end up doing. And this is to refill our health. I believe RTA-wise, it's technically slower than going to a bonfire checkpoint, but there's not really one around this area that would work. And IGT-wise, it is faster. And we timed this based off of IGT, so that's why we are doing this. So we're going to walk into the water. Go ahead.
And there's an important point here. Actually, in this area, the lightning flashes still happen. So if you are sensitive to light, look away until we get out of this area. And we'll...
Right, yeah. So we're going to use the air matches right here. It's not too bad, but just in case, we want to make sure everybody's safe and well as we continue to row in this terrible, terrible boat. But don't worry, we're going to be getting rid of it soon. I don't like it. You guys probably like me not liking it, but don't like it yourselves. But we're going to see here, this is kind of a swag strap. We're going to try and just barely thread the line here to get through, and we did. All right, sometimes you can get stuck on that ledge. I think it's because the water here is actually rising and falling in real time, and it's kind of cool, but it's also going to be a little bit annoying. But this game has great water effects for the time. If you try to run the original game, it does not hold up as well. It definitely really struggles in areas where you're going to be consistently getting 10 FPS, and that's like 20 FPS is bad enough, but half of that is just close to unplayable. Right now we're going to be over here. So if you remember as Paige, we actually met a fellow scientist named Dr. Sprite. Dr. Spritz, man. I don't know why I keep on getting that mixed up. But we're going to meet back out with Dr. Spritz, and he's not going to give us the secret soda formula that we want. But he is going to help us try and destroy Echidna because he also regrets creating it. So he's going to jog our memory. That's going to give us a puzzle piece. And as I am doing this puzzle, I'll let Suzuka kind of give more explanation about what we're going to be doing next.
So basically, Apollon, the big criminal mastermind, is trying to get Echidna back so he can end up spreading it throughout the city. But right now, we're trying to figure out how to destroy it. So we'll go in a crime fighting spree with Dr. Spritz right here. And it's going to be pretty...
Yeah. So to make sure, you know, if you guys are ever like forgetting something, you lost your keys, or you had a really important task, which I still think that I'm forgetting somebody. I know I am. I feel like we left somebody behind. But if you ever like are struggling to remember something, do a jigsaw puzzle. And then you'll remember it, no problem. But we learned that Echidna's secret weakness is electricity. So we are going to go to the substation plant with... Oh no, Dr. Spritz. See, this is why you drink a lot of water. If you drink too much soda, you end up like him right here. Afraid his time has come. Can't fulfill his responsibility. Like, you just gotta feel bad for the guy. But in the meantime, we have an upcoming boat area here, but we have good news, and that is we have time for a few donations.
Okay. And I'm gonna use that time. Thank you very much. I just want to point out that you can help us by donating, and you can also help us by cheering or subscribing to our channel on Twitch. Right now, throughout the entire marathon, we hit the almost round number, 301 subscriptions. And if we hit 800 during this marathon, Kingston HyperX will match for every sub $2.50 donation. So basically, the value of your sub is doubled throughout the entire marathon. I would consider this a good opportunity to actually subscribe to our channel, especially considering if you have like an Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime, or you want to gift subs to the community. It's the best opportunity to do so right now.
All right, so we're going to get a letter from Sierra. That's a letter from David, who was to be given to Sierra saying, you need to destroy Echidna. How he expected her to do so, I have no idea, but she's going to come along with us to help us out. Unfortunately, though, the container begins to go off into the water, and I'm not really sure why, but Ivan really has a tough time catching up to it. This is like not his day. You know, he wakes up face down in the ground in the rainwater, his eyes messed up. You know, it's a natural disaster. He is having the worst day of his life. So right now in the story, Ivan's pretty conflicted because he feels a lot of guilt about this entire project, but he can't really remember it. So he's kind of viewing it as an outside perspective. And the idea is that later on, you'll eventually kind of regain all your memories, and that's where your character makes a decision. But right now, we need to go get something to tie down the container because we don't want it floating away again. And this boat is just very, very wonky. You're going to see me do a lot of like weird movements. So like you're going to be seeing me do this. It's kind of called a wiggle technique. It's so we can get around this corner as tight as possible and not run into that lamppost over there. I don't know how the boat physics work on this. I don't think this is really viable in real life. I could be wrong again. I'm not a fisherman. I don't know. But we're going to come over here. Go ahead.
So I don't forget, lightning warning over. No more lightning.
Right. Now we are in a safe zone. But we're going to come over here. I don't really know how anybody was supposed to know this was an item on their first playthrough. I didn't. I had to look it up. But we're going to grab that flag. We're going to use it to tie down the container to the boat. And you want to give another like kind of like what if scenario about what would happen if we went through this area as Joshua potentially?
So this is actually pretty rare in the US version. There is a train above you, and you'll actually come through this area as Joshua if you don't leave early. And it's possible to knock the train down, and if you do so, the container will end up drifting away. And if you don't catch it, it'll drift out to sea, and then supposedly everyone gets infected because of that.
Right, so that's a bad ending. And something kind of weird is, I'll let you explain, but isn't there something about the FPS that makes it really difficult?
Yeah, it's more difficult to actually catch up with it in the US version compared to the PAL and Japanese versions due to the frame rate differences. You have a pretty good window in the Japanese version, but in the US, it's not impossible, but it's a much tougher.
Right, yeah, it's definitely very, very difficult even for seasoned veterans such as myself or Suzuka or Rosenberg, who are the three main active runners. And two of them are lovely, lovely people, so I'd recommend, checking them out. This Suzuka has a lot of really cool dialogue that he's found, a lot of other stuff that just makes this game so much better. But we're going to see a helicopter, and we're going to go, that's weird. We really haven't seen that. But they are very transfixed on the container that we are holding on to. So we're going to continue on. We're not going to worry about the major flooding that is going on, and we're just going to pretend like everything is perfectly okay. Ivan's just going to continue on. We have the container. We have Sierra. We are good to go. And we are also coming up near the end of Ivan's campaign. And then we'll only have one character left. So again, we are almost there. We can see the finish line. We are getting there. But we're going to head over to the Del Rey Station area. And we are going to restore power in order to completely destroy Echidna. Well, that's the idea. So we're going to come right over here. This is kind of RNG if we get the wind effect. So kind of bad luck there, but that's okay. We're going to come inside here. We're going to repower the entire substation and turn that back on. Match through this. And alright, the power is on. We're going to turn back around right here. We're going to run outside. Now what we're going to do is we're going to push up against this wall. And we're going to crouch on the ground. Now we are going to barely avoid getting hit by that gigantic pole. We're going to run back over here. And oh no, that helicopter that we saw, it's coming back. Well, we might want to figure out what they want. Maybe they're a couple of nice guys. Oh, yeah, they don't seem very nice. They're wearing weird masks. Oh no. But we hear about Mr. Apollon. And this is where the game's entire conspiracy begins to unfold. We get to see who Mr. Apollon is, who was the owner of Echidna, and it is none other than... Oh my god, you're... Joshua Harwell. No, he's not. No, that is Mayor Goldstein, the mayor of the city, wanted to completely destroy the city. So obviously we have to stop him because that's like what the good guys do, right? Nope. We're going to turn over Echidna and we're going to escape and do an evil laugh at the end. And that is right, Ivan betrays Sierra Young, takes the container, and they do some very evil things that we don't know about. So that is the fastest ending to just agree to him. Otherwise, we have to go through a bunch of dialogue. Ivan gets shot, he goes into the water, and has to slowly crawl his way back up to destroy Echidna just in time before he passes on. Unfortunately, that is really, really slow, and we kind of get a somewhat anticlimactic end to his story. But now we are on the final character, Keith Helm. Now, something kind of cool. If we went through Joshua's story, we'd actually be playing as him in this area, and it is like probably 7 minutes faster, I think, 6 or 7 minutes faster. However, it takes about 30 to get there. So we're going to be playing as Keith. If you don't recognize Keith, he's been kind of in the background, and if we were playing through Isaac's story, we would have gotten to know him just a little bit better. Unfortunately, though, we don't really get to see too much of him. He is actually the main protagonist that you played as in the first game, Disaster Report. I'm not going to spoil what happened to his leg, but he is actually disabled. And just kind of a cool little thing is that at this time, there really weren't many disabled characters unless they were played off for kind of goofs, but here it's in a very serious tone for such a silly game, and I always thought that was just kind of neat to have Keith here, who they don't like make it a big deal, it's just kind of a thing. But yeah, unfortunately, because of his leg injury that he got in the first events of Disaster Report, he is a relatively slow character, and we need to make our way to the top of a radio tower in hopes of escaping. But if you remember what I said plenty of times, probably a dozen at this point, is that character choices matter. And pretty much this ending is a culmination of every single choice that you made, and this is kind of where it fails or pays off. Unfortunately, though, we get... I think you agree with me, Suzuka. We get literally the worst possible ending that you can get for this game, at least for this specific character.
Yeah, there are actually two variants for Keith. The Joshua one is always the same, but for Keith, either Sophia, the girl who's with Isaac, can go and meet Keith and give him secret documents about the conspiracy, and he'll actually figure out the truth before leaving the building, and he'll be rescued by Sophia at the end. Now, unfortunately, since Sophia is not around, we're gonna have a little bit of bad luck when we get to the top.
Yeah, but we do gotta get there to get the ending, and so Keith is gonna be making his way over. And kind of another fun fact, we've been talking a lot about FPS difference and differences in versions between like the Japanese one and the NA one. One of the other ones is here, so I think you mentioned this earlier, Suzuka, but when you go onto a hand railing in 20 FPS, your animation's a little bit wonky, so you actually move faster. Well, in this one, it does apply too, and you'll see it is, I think you said 0.25 times faster, if I'm correct?
It's not 0.25. For 20 FPS, I think it would end up being something like 2/3 faster, because they actually end up overcorrecting for it twice.
Gotcha. So just keep that in mind, because we're going to get up to a part, and I just want you to imagine that it could be very slower. But you see I'm doing something with my camera here. I did this in Ivan's chapter a little bit, but here it's very relevant. If I look the other way, my frames drop quite a bit. Again, this game is very optimized with the exception of maybe like 3 or 4 major areas. But thankfully, if I have my camera angled in a very specific way, then it completely avoids the frame loss. This doesn't matter in IGT because the timer goes off of the actual FPS counter rather than the PS2's internal clock. So because of that, it doesn't matter IGT wise if you get lag, but RTA, it does slow things down a little bit. And you know, we're trying to go as fast as possible, so I just do this to make it better on my eyes and your eyes as well. But not a lot is happening right here. We're trying to get to the top of the building, so in the meantime, we can read out some few final donations for this game if required or wanted.
Sure, if you want to donate for our marathon, you can also have awesome prizes you can get. For example, for a cumulative sum of $25, so $5 here, $5 there, and if you donate a total amount of $25 throughout this marathon, you can get one of 3 different HyperX Cloud headsets, or HyperX Stinger X headset as well. For $20, you can get a HyperX mouse. For $15, HyperX mousepad, or a French indie game bundle. So we have plenty of awesome prizes. If you want to check them out, go to prizes.esamarathon.com and make sure to donate for them, because this is the only chance for you to get them right now.
Alright, so we are almost at the very end here. You know, we are making our way downtown, walking not super fast, but we're making good pace. So you can see this giant boat right here. We're going to be climbing that in just a moment, and we're almost at the end. We're coming up to the kind of climactic end. If we have been paying any attention to the story, which unfortunately we haven't been able to do so thankfully for you guys who play it and experience yourself without spoilers, we're going to be meeting a character here. If you've been noticing, there's kind of something that's been out of place, and we've been following a little blood trail, which just kind of seems a bit weird because we haven't seen that anywhere else in the game, and it's because of a character who has taken a very bad injury. Also, we get a little bit of wonkiness right there. Normally you'd have to like kind of crouch on the ground, but because Keith kind of just walks into the boat there, we don't have to worry about it. I don't understand it. But he's going to climb right here, and now we are done with the stair walking. This part is much faster as Joshua because he is at full running speed in comparison. But this is kind of the climactic area where we meet a character and we kind of get an idea that even though the container escaped, we might be able to stop it somehow, or at least get the truth about who Mr. Apollon really was, which was Mayor Goldstein, who's been behind, not this disaster exactly, but he's been doing some bad stuff in the background. But
So as was mentioned before, this is actually much faster than the Japanese version, if you think this is slow, and we're going to have to basically do this for the rest of the bridges.
yeah, this is very, very fast in comparison. And I'm not really sure why this game runs at 20 FPS in comparison to the 30 on the Japanese console. It might have to do with like the TVs being different with like 60 Hz and 50 Hz or something like that. But I'm not really too sure myself.
If I were to hazard a guess, it was most likely just to mitigate the slowdown problems. Because even with 20 FPS, you do see it kind of slow down at some certain points as well. I imagine that's probably pretty bad at 30 FPS.
Probably. So this is Jaden. We met him as Amber Brazil, who is running out of David's room after he was killed. And he's going to talk to us. He's pretty much like a dude, you know, he's like a bro. He keeps on saying dude and man and thanks bud. And it doesn't really fit his character like a very serious Japanese businessman. I don't know why. This game is very wonky with that stuff. But he gives us a CD, and it's implied that the CD has some very important information on it regarding Mr. Apollon and Mayor Goldstein. And now we are going to use our final heal up of the game by using that bonfire, and now we are going to climb the media tower. Now, kind of a fun little fact, this area is really designed for Joshua. So you're going to be seeing my camera a couple of times take really sharp turns. And I have to take these turns really wide and really wonky because otherwise Keith is going to bonk into them. And the reason for that is that these were designed for Joshua to be going up the stairs, and because he is running, normally you would just be able to like hold forward and essentially just move up these stairs without really touching anything. However, because we are Keith and because we are slower, it kind of makes this area a little bit harder to avoid bonking into anything. But as we are coming up here, time is going to be coming up in just a minute. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching and supporting this awesome marathon and the variety of things that they are doing to help a lot of different people. Definitely shout outs to the tech crew. I also want to give a special thanks to my buddy Suzuka, who has been helping me learn this run, do this commentary, pretty much get everything set up to get to this point, and I'm really glad I get to show it to you guys because it's a very fun game. Also a shout out to my friend Rosenberg. He's also a very active runner, very good at this game, and Igdices and Juo, who both were working in the Silent Hill 2 and 3 block. They're good friends and good inspirations for me. I've been kind of modeling my commentary off their style, so special thanks to them. But yeah, we are beginning to come to the final points of this game. Just gotta continue to climb up this ladder, make our way to the very top, and we are almost there. We also get a couple of little bit more cinematic set pieces. As we can see, the floor is falling behind, the tower is slowly collapsing, the water is rising, and normally we think, oh, we're gonna make it, right? We're gonna just barely get there in the nick of time. And I'm going to give you guys Spoiler, Keith does not make it. If you remember, as Isaac, we left a lady named Sophia behind. We don't know what happened to her. That's kind of the thing I forgot, so my bad. But that causes it so Keith is not going to have a helicopter waiting for him at the top. And it's kind of, it's known what happens to him, but we're not going to be showing you that. We're just going to kind of leave it up in the air about whether or not he survives. But I think this should be the final ladder climb, if I'm correct. So if the tech would like to get ready for time, that's going to be coming up in just a moment. Time is going to be right when we touch that pole. So we're going to make our way over. You know, Keith is very, very strong. And time is now.
Fantastic.
Right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this, and if you would like, you can either watch a playthrough online, there's a couple of great ones out there, or you can try out this game for yourself. You can find it for pretty cheap. We also have a Discord, which we have a lot more information on, so feel free to ask me, Suzuka, or really any of the active runners questions about this game or the sequel, which just came out today or yesterday, depending on your time zone. But that is going to be it for me and Suzuka. Thank you so much for helping me out with this, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm very glad that I got to show this. So thank you to ESA for having me on, and I hope you all have a